Hello, and welcome to Honey Badger Radio number 25. Where have all the good men gone? That is actually sarcastic, guys. So don't send the pitchforks and the flaming arrows. This is our show on MGTOW, that is men going their own way. But first, before we get right into it, let us introduce our panelists today. We have a special guest, Max Darrett. Did you want to say hello? Did I say your name right? Did I mispronounce it?
No, you said it actually perfectly. Hello, lonely mortals. I'm ready to have a bunch of angry people who, whenever, like, if I say something just a little bit wrong, just flooding my inbox, waiting to debate me. It's gonna be a fun show.
Yeah, well, anger is sort of the stock and trade here. We're anger professionals.
The
After all, you
ragening.
are honey badgers.
Yeah, okay.
The ragening.
Yeah. Unleash the rage. Okay, and we also have Kevin Strong. I mean,
That's right.
I knew it.
You know it, bitch. Kevin Strong. That's right.
and Jerry. Okay, I think she's working with her mute button. And Rachel Edwards.
But Jerry, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, she's
I did.
playing with her button.
I
Jerry's
think we're gonna
always
be.
playing with her button. That's just what he'd do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we're
Hi,
gonna. I
everybody.
think we're gonna have a Hannah later on this evening, because she has a prior engagement. I believe on Paul Elam's channel, doing an interview.
She's got a date with Paul Elam.
Don't quote us on that. I don't know how much rage that'll cause. That's just us silly. All right. So let's get right into the mailbag, which has got lots of interesting stuff in it.
Bring it on.
Okay. Okay. Good afternoon, Badgers. I have an inquiry that I would like to direct to Karen and Allison, although if any other Badgers have any comments on my inquiry, I'd love to hear them. My best friend has been suffering from depression for a few years now because he had a bad breakup with his ex and has been unable to move on. Part of the reason why I believe he's struggling is because of the standard that men are held to when it comes to dating and relationships. Men are expected to pay for the dates and to make women in their life feel appreciated, but you don't see the reverse. Because of this, my friend has had a hard time trusting women. Do you think that this double standard of dating is the reason why many men are choosing to opt out of dating entirely and going their own way? If you think so, do you have any ideas or suggestions you think would help men in regards to dating and relationships? Thank you, an invisible ninja badger.
Okay.
Let's just dig right in.
Can I address this really quickly? If your friend is still depressed, right? That's not that's not a function of him necessarily. It's not necessarily a function of him being gun shy and not trusting women. One of the things that men are essentially sort of inculcated in sort of enculturated to take on is they take on the entire burden of the relationship. So essentially, when a man, and my boyfriend still, like, I've been with him for longer now than he was with his ex, he still has a hard time getting past the way that ended, right? He really does. He'll have a few drinks and he'll start getting all melancholy and maudlin, and then he will start talking about it, and he will say, well, it was the way it happened. It was the way it happened, right? And I think for men who felt like they were doing their best, they felt like they were really putting in a good effort. They were really taking their partner and their partner's needs into account and all of these things, and they were really just giving it the old college try. They were really, really freaking in there. And then they come up against this the capricious nature of certain women, who often, I mean, like with my boyfriend, within 5 days, it went from, text messages and emails saying, I love you so much, and oh, your family misses you so much, and we depend on you, and we're so lucky to have you, and blah, 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 to, yeah, I want you to move out. right? So he didn't see it coming, and no reasonable person would see it coming. Um, and I think that men have this thing, and it's something that's just reinforced by the culture constantly, that they're in control. They're the ones in control. They're the ones with the responsibility. They're the ones who should be able to control things. And when they get with a woman who is capricious, a woman who is fickle, a woman who is not she's not even going to be able to give you a reason why she's leaving, right? It's just, yeah, I know I was gushing about how much I loved you 3 days ago, but yeah, now I want you to move out. Goodbye. Oh, and you don't need to see your kid anymore. Um, they take that on, right? Even though, and this is what it really amounts to, they know it wasn't their fault on a logical sense. They know that it wasn't anything that they did, and they will often go back and re-examine for years, right? Re-examine everything that they might have done that could have led to that, right? And they know it wasn't them, right? But at the same time, they feel responsible for it, right? And I think that might be, if your friend is actually still depressed, right? Not just, I'm not really that interested in dating, or I don't really trust women, but like actually depressed and not able to get over this breakup. Maybe that's how it went down, because it seems like there's a complete inability to reconcile these two notions of feeling responsible for the entire relationship and encountering a woman who is completely outside of your ability to control. Right? So you can't control how she feels. You can't control how she feels about you. You can't control how she feels about the relationships. You can't control what she's going to do.
All right. Max.
Yeah, I just before I say my little thing, I just wanted to echo Karen's sentiments about. Oh, there's a bit of an echo. Okay, yeah. I just wanted to say about the whole just going back and re-examining your behaviors just to try and figure out where you went wrong. That's definitely something that I completely understand, especially considering like I have high functioning autism, and I don't tend to be as normal as most other people when it comes to social interactions. So I'm always just very paranoid that I might say something just a little bit inappropriate, which might put somebody off. So I can totally understand that angle. As a dude, I just wanted to say that maybe the one thing that can help sort of alleviate these feelings of depression, something that actually helped me because bad past relationships with women have actually contributed to some dark times in my life. One thing that you can do in this increasingly gynocentric world is actually hold women up to the standards that men are held up to. And I find that a lot of women tend to be very receptive of that. It shows that you actually are able to respect them beyond just, treating them like, because women are wonderful. You want to treat them as well as you can, but when you actually show that you want to challenge them, you want to let them show what their abilities are to you, you want to have them prove themselves to you, they find that they're very receptive to that, at least with the majority of the female friends that I have. So maybe you want to try that. That might build up your self-esteem like it did for mine. Just give it a shot. Anyways, that's it for me.
All right. Thanks, Max. Okay. Brian, did you have anything to say to this topic? We just received a email. Oh, and I wanted to mention that gynocentrism is essentially the flip side of what we see in terms of putting men in charge of things. When you put men in charge, you tend to get a situation where women are seen as the moral center of society, and that is a result of a very, very deep psychological phenomenon known as moral typecasting. When we see a group of people or a person as having agency, we are more likely to judge them by their effects on a group of people that we see do not have agency. And anyway, Brian, we had a letter from a young man who had gone through, or whose friend had gone through a bad breakup, and who was having a hard time trusting women because of the expectations that women put on men to take responsibility for every aspect of the relationship. Did you have anything to add to that, Brian? Are you struggling with your mute button?
No, no, no. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah, we can hear you. I know that you've had this epic
Whoa.
battle
Yeah.
with the
Yeah, so
computer.
yeah, my computer is in the shop right now, and I'm doing this from my tablet. So, I can't even see like the in Google Hangouts chat, so I don't know what's going on with that. And I didn't get the whole story. It sounded like, can you give me the short version of the letter? Or are we just talking about a person dealing with depression from past relationships? Yeah,
It's,
because I didn't catch the whole thing because I came in late.
okay, this is paraphrasing from the letter. Men are expected to pay for the dates and to make the women in their life feel appreciated, but you don't see the reverse. Because of this, my friend has a hard time trusting women. Do you think that the double standard of dating is the reason why many men are choosing to opt out of dating entirely and going their own way? If so, do you think do you have any ideas or suggestions that you think would help men in regards to dating and relationships?
I see. I don't think that is the reason that men are opting out. Because from what I understand, that sort of thing's been going on for a really long time, and it's sort of like always been the case. I think that where men are starting to throw their hands up and walk away is that not only is this expectation put on them, but they are still. I mean, they're basically. They're still shit on in a lot of ways, in our media and in our culture. So they don't get any respect or admiration for it. They don't get any. They feel like it's being cast into an abyss, like all of the things that they try to do for women, and they don't feel like they're getting anything back. So after a while, when you think that not only does everyone expect you to try to earn their admiration, but the whole time they basically, make you feel like shit for doing that. I can see how that would make guys walk away. As far as advice, or at least ideas as to, like, how to counter it, I agree with what Max said. Essentially, if you hold women and you just start treating them like anybody else, and you don't pedestalize them, and you don't, basically treat them as individuals worthy of your respect or admiration or love or curiosity based on their individual interactions with you, and nothing more than that, and don't make them feel like children. Actually, women are receptive to it. The girl I'm currently seeing, she doesn't like when guys, are overly protective of her or treat her like a fragile, little flower that's going to wilt if not cared for. It actually really frustrates her, and she likes that, I treat her just like anybody else, except that our relationship is more intimate. And you have to. I think that the thing that is most difficult for men to do, in with what's going on with all of this, is for them to just love themselves and basically take care of themselves and basically find that the men themselves, are deserving of a certain kind of woman or person, or their circle of their friends, or everyone that they interact with. They have to hold themselves to a standard, for its own sake. Not doing things because you're hoping to be noticed by someone or that you're going to get someone's admiration. Just do it for yourself. And I think that a guy who essentially can live without worrying about what other people, if he's like getting or giving people what is expected of him, and he's not living under the guise of trying to please everyone around him, is not only going to be happier, but he's going to surround himself with people that that he likely deserves to be around. That's all.
Okay, I'm going to make a really quick call just before we get to the next people who are talking. I'm going to call this our little foyer, our little toe dipping into MGTOW. And so this will be sort of like, we'll talk about relationships, we'll do some not too deep a dig into the topic, and I'd like to do a call out to anyone who's involved in the MGTOW movement. If they want to get into a deeper and more comprehensive look at MGTOW. Specifically, I'd like to extend the invitation again to Barbar and Sardusk, and all of the other MGTOW YouTubers, if they would like to come on and have a discussion about MGTOW, I'd like to revisit this topic and do it properly. Unfortunately, due to various issues that have been happening with the honey badgers, completely unrelated to this topic and just totally, life is life sort of situation, I feel like we're a little underprepared for this topic today, but I would like to put the call out to any MGTOWs in the future to get in contact with us at topic@badgerpod.com. In particular, any MGTOW YouTubers who would like to come on and discuss the topic with a more rigor than we are able to, just being a bunch of women. And I don't want to say and Brian and Max. I mean, you guys want, you know what I mean. We're sort of a clam bake here. So, anyway, I'd like to put that out before I give Rachel the floor. So go ahead, Rachel.
So basically, we're just putting the tip in, Allison?
Just the tip, friends. Just the tip.
Okay, so anyway, but getting back to the topic at hand, it's kind of a difficult situation. It's something that I noticed a long time ago when I first started talking to guys and befriending guys. I started having conversations with them, and they would just be really surprised when I just talked to them like a normal human being. And I started to realize that there was a serious problem with the way that women treat men, even in a friendship capacity, that I just had no idea. I had no clue that it was even going on until after many years of being friends, having guy friends. And the situation is only really going to change if women start really thinking about how they treat guys, because they try to often communicate with men sometimes the way that they communicate with their female friends, or they do worse than them. They ignore them. They kind of just treat them as a means to an end, a shoulder to cry on, or just whatever, a tool basically. And it wreaks havoc on these folks. So I really don't blame this guy for being upset. I mean, there's one person I'm talking to right now, a friend I haven't spoken to in the longest time, and he is all torn up because he feels like he is inadequate in the dating pool, and he's just driving himself crazy because women, because he feels that women don't approve of him, or he's just not good enough. And I keep trying to tell him, like, it's not your fault. It's not your problem, to be honest. I mean, you're not a bad person. It's just that women these days have these really crazy expectations from the relationship on them. They want them to pay for everything. They want them to have the right job, the right shoes, the right haircut. And it doesn't matter that no matter who you are as a woman, there's somebody who will like you, your body type, your kind of personality. There's going to be some guy out there who likes that. Women don't want to do that. They don't want to date the sort of guy who's going to be into them that way. They want to date a guy who fits their particular expectations and likes them. Or they want him to change his expectations from what they are to them. And it's just madness. And the only way that things are going to change is if women just start taking an equal role in the relationship, like I think a couple of people were saying, and just treat a guy like a human being. Jesus. The stories I hear all the time are just horror stories of how men have been used and abused, and God, it's a nightmare. So yeah, I do believe that to some extent this is one of the many reasons why guys are opting out. It's far more complex of an issue than that, but yeah, I would definitely say that it scares some guys off. So that's all I want to say.
Yeah, just to go off of one thing that Rachel said, I think that and I think Karen has said this before in her old videos, is that a large part of what helps a man create a positive identity for himself is to gain social approval from a woman. And if you can't do that, like as a lot of men nowadays tend to be, like what I've seen and what Rachel was just saying that she's seen, it drives them crazy and it really makes them tear themselves up about it because they feel like they're doing something wrong. But for a large part of it, they're really not. And that's something that we gotta let them know. Sorry, yeah, go ahead, Karen.
Yeah, no, actually, you just actually triggered like an entire train of thought with me just with that. Social approval from a woman. Yes, social approval from a woman. Okay, well, that's not how society has always worked, right? And one of the things that has really broken down, and this is the saddest thing too, is because um, intra-male cooperation, right? So male-male cooperation within in-groups in humans is probably the most out of, like, you will not see another mammal, let alone animal, with a higher level of cooperation between unrelated males as we have in humanity, right? It is the source of all kinds of horrible things like genocides, and it's the source of all kinds of wonderful things like the internet and the birth control pill, and and going to the moon and landing a probe on a comet, and all of those things is the unique ability of human males to cooperate with each other. And human males used to derive a huge amount of their positive identity from other men, particularly older men. And that's changed. That's changed a huge amount. That's changed just through the era of fatherlessness. That has changed through the era of school teachers being mostly women, when there was a time when school teachers were mostly men. Um, Nurses were mostly men at one time. Like there were areas, always, there were areas where young men could be mentored by older men. 8-year-old boys being apprenticed to blacksmiths and silversmiths and farriers and Fletchers and all of these things, right? And shoemakers and all of this stuff. There was always, and fathers were primarily really close to home. If you were living on a farm, your dad didn't go out of the house 8 to 10 hours a day, and he was not to be seen or heard, and then he came home in the evening. No, if you were on a farm, he was there most of the day. He was there and accessible, and the boys were working alongside him, right? So essentially, we have had this transition to where boys are 100% reliant on and dependent on their mothers for their day-to-day care, their female teachers for their schooling, their daycare providers and after-school care providers, who are mostly women, for their supervision. And not only that, but we've eliminated male-only spaces. They're illegal now. They're discriminatory. Not allowed, right? It's not allowed for a bunch of guys to get together just as guys. Even the men's sheds in Australia, which were an initiative to have male spaces where older men could mentor younger men, they faced a huge push. I'm not sure how that worked out, from feminists claiming that they were discriminatory and that they had to, they should have to let women in, right? So you essentially have this erosion of male community. This is the most brilliant, the most advantageous aspect of humanity. It's what separates us from bonobos and chimpanzees and all the other fucking apes, right? Is this ability of males to cooperate with each other, and we're doing everything in our power to undermine it. We're doing everything in our power to convince each individual man that what men think of you is You don't have to worry about that. You don't have to fucking worry about what men think of you. You just have to worry about what your mother thinks of you and your girlfriend thinks of you. And you're going to put your entire identity on those two things, your mother and your girlfriend.
And if I may,
Mm.
and I think a consequence of that is that when you have men or boys growing up around all these women, and basically they're essentially trying to gain their approval all through their young life into adulthood, and you take away male spaces, and where men can't just gather and be men and be mentored by other men or by peers, and work together and learn to cooperate with males. You end up with a situation where one of the largest opponents of men trying to find happiness is other men, because they're basically putting the woman as the ultimate goal. It's like the ultimate achievement is the woman, and men will tear each other down to get to her, because that's in their whole life. Mother is God in the eyes of a child, as they say.
Agreed. The woman, it's not the woman herself, it's her approval. Her approval is all that there is. And yeah, you'll throw other men under the bus. And this, like, I almost want conscription to come back, like just during peacetime, just like they have in Norway, where young men have to serve their 2 years or whatever in the military, because at least that would stick them in a male environment where there aren't really women in there fucking things up, right? And they will have to go in there and learn how to get along with other males. They'll have to learn how to value other men, right? And rely on them and realize that other men are valuable. That would be, like peacetime conscription. I would almost be in favor of. Wartime conscription, maybe not so much, but peacetime conscription, like anything. But even right now, the Boy Scouts isn't all male. The Boy Scouts has to let girls in. The Girl Guides don't have to let boys in, but the Boy Scouts have to let girls in.
Okay, why don't we move to another email? Unless anybody else has anything left to say to this one. Going once, going twice. All right.
I just can't believe that what Karen just said is true, that the Boy Scouts need to include girls, but it's not vice versa. That blows my mind.
Yeah, no, they argued that Boy Scouts not allowing girls in was sexist, but that if the Girl Scouts were forced to allow boys or even transgender girls in, it could turn rapey.
Christ almighty.
Yeah. Okay. Well, each of these letters has something related to the topic, and I invite you all to ferret out the relationship to the topic of men no longer wanting to engage with women or society. Tito writes, "Hello again. Have you heard of the Polished Man campaign? Apparently it's a campaign to raise awareness of men's violence towards children. In the campaign they state 90% of all sexual violence towards children is perpetrated by men. Of course, they don't cite a reference for this, but guess what? In media stories they're changing it to 90% of all violence towards children is perpetrated by men, completely ignoring the fact that this is incorrect and leaving out the fact that violence towards children is overwhelmingly dealt by the mother. I just thought you might like to be aware of yet another man-bashing campaign by the media."
Okay, well, okay, but like when a mom like smacks her kid upside the head, that's not really violence, right? When a woman like drowns her children in a bathtub to spite her estranged husband, because he won't let her move to Australia, from Calgary, like that's not really violence. So, yeah, no, I can totally see that 90% of violence towards children is perpetrated by men. This is fucking complete bullshit. It's 27% minimum of the sexual violence towards children is perpetrated by women.
Minimum.
Minimum. That's what we've been able to detect, and everybody who researches this says that's likely an underestimate because of the fact that violence perpetrated by women is viewed differently, and abuse perpetrated by women is viewed differently even by the victims. It's not seen as bad, as scary, right? It's not seen as it's not seen as worth reporting, right? Or if they do report it, people don't believe them.
Yep. There was a statistic that I believe, what was it, 98% of the people who reported being sexually abused by a woman weren't believed the first time they reported it.
It was 86.
86%. Okay.
Yeah,
86%.
both boys and girls.
And that was to people who should have known better.
Yeah, people with a duty of care.
Yeah. And so, I mean, this is a lower bound. So, you know, can anybody ferret out the connection to why men might want to be divorcing themselves from a society that is constantly portraying them in this horrible fashion?
Well, you know, violence is a male thing, right? And sexual abuse is a male thing, and rape is a male thing, and all of this is male stuff. And, you know, and then we got man-spreading and man-splaining and man-slamming and man-jacking. Theron Meyer just told me of the new thing, the new man-portmanteau, man-jacking, which is because derailing and sea-lioning weren't adequate terms. So now it's man-jacking, a man coming in and hijacking a conversation by saying, what about the men? You know, like, don't you think you should measure this, you know, measure this phenomenon as, you know, as it affects men before you go saying that it affects this many women, therefore inequality. You know, like maybe you should look at the other side of the equation before you declare there's an inequality. Right, but that's apparently that's now man-jacking, and yeah, no, you know, and honestly, I think all of these things sound like porn terms. So I think we should actually do a parody where we actually
manspread.
Yeah, man-spreading, man-splaining, man-jacking, man-jack, man-jack.
Okay.
That sounds so dirty.
Yeah, it does sound pretty dirty. But it's interesting how they're trying to turn man into an insult for everything.
Yeah, no, I mean they are, and they have literally spent the last 50, 60, actually probably about 150 years trying to attribute every single ill in society towards some aspect of normative masculinity. It is all just what men do, right? It is like these things are definitionally male. Genocide is definitionally male, even when women participate and orchestrate it, even when women are the architects of it. Rape, definitionally male, even when women commit it. They're just taking on a masculine role, right? Domestic violence, definitionally male, even though women are more prone to it. Oh, because they're punching up, right? Because they're oppressed by men, right? Oppression, that's a male thing too. It's all fucking male shit. It's all definitionally male. Everything bad in the world, fucking Ebola, is definitionally male, right? Yeah, no, and you know, and my crimped fucking pipe in my bathtub freaking fixture, definitionally male.
Well, of course it is, because it's phallically shaped.
Well,
it's certainly the male end of it.
Okay, is there anything else definitionally
Nothing wrong with that
male?
compression ring, thank you very much.
I mean, the hot and cold nozzles, those are supposed to be like breasts, right? And they work perfectly fine.
Actually, it was the hot water tap that was broken. That was why I had to replace it. So
Plumbing. Definitionally male.
But
oh wait, that's not negative enough.
It was probably broken by something that was definitionally male.
All right, I wonder. Like, yeah, it does. The thing is, I don't understand how people can be. Well, why are men suddenly getting very ambivalent towards our society? Well, making everything that's bad in society and labeling it male might be part of it. I mean, you can't tell a group of people that they don't really belong to society for so long and then have them say, you know what, we're just going to camp out here and just make our own little community. Or just be on our own. Like, just fuck it. We're obviously not part of your society, since everything negative is labeled after our gender identification, so maybe we'll just make our own fucking society. Too bad. Men are the ones that generally do the work of running society, so I guess we're just fucked ourselves. But you know what?
We don't
I'm
need
fine with that.
We don't need an operational sewer system, Allison. We don't need traffic controllers, and we don't fucking need EMTs. We don't need fucking garbage men. We do not need coal miners. All of these people just fucking kill the planet. Let's all just move into some freaking yurt sewn together out of freaking goat skins, weave on a freaking hand loom, and be peaceful women in our communal, peaceful female society. Fuck those men.
What really gets me is, to be honest,
We have
I don't
internet,
want to.
right? We have internet there, right?
Of course.
In our yurt.
I don't want to live in a society where this happens, where men can be so roundly vilified in every single corner, and people can just look at this and say, that's no big deal. Another fucking $1 million campaign to make men responsible for another human ill that both sexes are responsible for. And everybody just turns away and says, oh, well, blah, 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 blah. Like, I don't want to live in a society that does this shit. And if that means that we need to challenge the very fundamental nature of scapegoating and insisting that someone occupy the lowest rung of society, and that right now that seems to be men, the rung where we put all of the bad things and we blame it on one person or one group of people and then ritually fucking slaughter them either psychologically or physically. That's it. I'm done with that.
But Allison, but men are still in charge. Men are still more than 50% of politicians. Men are still overrepresented as CEOs. Men are still in charge of everything, Allison.
You know, that
I know, it's stupid, it's stupid.
fallacy of representation. There have, like I have on my channel, there have been societies, specifically the Ottoman Empire, in which Christian slaves occupied most of the positions of visible leadership. But they could do that because you could take a slave boy and you could run him 400 miles, and if he died in a ditch along the way, nobody gave a shit. Well, his parents did, but they couldn't do anything. And then at the end of it, you could brainwash them into a new ideology in which their origins were inferior, creating a psychological situation where they actually think that their service to the empire that they belong to is how they generate or they feel like their service is how they generate their sense of belonging to the empire. And you can do that because nobody cares about nobody in that particular region cared about the sons of Christian slaves. You do whatever the fuck you wanted to them. So you could essentially rewire their brains to be completely devoted to the Turkish Empire and never be worried that they would ever really challenge that devotion. Because the Turkish Empire had captured their sense of belonging by putting them through essentially a torture and a brainwashing.
And some Ritalin and you know, some extra detentions and maybe a school to prison pipeline and
so it does not matter who is in overt power. It matters who controls a sense of belonging in society. Who we feel is the moral center of a society. That is who is going to be served by the people in charge. And when those people fail to serve, those men fail to serve the center of belonging in a society to the satisfaction of society, they will be removed and replaced with men who do serve it. It's ridiculous to say that men are in charge. It's not men. It's women's benefit. It's women as the moral center of society that are in charge.
It's proxies for women.
Well, the thing is, we don't use the right term to describe that. That is also power. Well, feminists have gotten away for far too long with talking about being in a service position of authority as if it is the only area where somebody has power. Where like if you're in a civil service position, if you run a company where you're beholden to a board of directors and a lot of well, partial owners of the company, that makes you a powerful person, even though you're beholden to other people. But when people serve your interests, they don't talk about that as power. They talk about that actually not at all. They don't really discuss it. They simply exploit it. And it's just like, you know, they'll tell you how many women there are in Congress in the United States, but they don't talk about the fact that the majority of voters, active voters in the United States, are women. So the people getting voted into those positions are getting voted into those positions by women. And the other thing that they don't talk about is women can choose and have been able to choose to run for those positions for a century and haven't done it.
Well, they also don't talk about the fact that they have a lobby, and their lobby is extremely well funded, and their lobby is extremely well connected, and so essentially.
Well, but my point is there is no one to blame for women not being in those positions.
Of course not.
Except women. Women are the reason that women are not in Congress.
Okay,
Men
but
are not the reason that women are not in Congress. Women are the reason.
Here's the reason women are not in Congress. Women politically minded women would rather join a feminist lobby group so that when they get their way, right, and everyone sees that as a good, right, they can say, we won women the vote, right, even though it was 100% men signing that piece of paper, right? They can say, women, us feminists won women the vote, right? They can say that, right? And then when they do something and they achieve something that everybody thinks is bad, like defeating that alimony reform bill in Florida, or, you know, opposing successfully every single shared parenting bill that's ever been proposed in the United States, and managing to defeat it, sometimes by corrupting the democratic process and by subverting the democratic process. Right? They can say, oh, I only wish we had that kind of power. We're just girls.
Well, see, that's how feminists exercise power, but it's also how they disguise themselves as being powerless. And it's the same thing that they do with every other area. They make their claim based on selective perception. Just the same as they do with domestic violence, just the same as they do with rape, just the same as they do with legal rights. If they only acknowledge one set of experiences, the set of experiences that supports their claim, and they ignore experiences and factors that don't support their claim, of course it's going to look rational from their perspective. Of course they're going to be able to make their claim appear to be based in fact. And you actually have to go through and step back from what they're basing their claim on and look at the bigger picture in order to see why it's bullshit.
Well, here's a real simple way of seeing why it's bullshit. I'll believe that men control the political landscape, that men, to their benefit, when I see a politician run on a platform of protecting men's rights, not men's superior rights over women, just men's rights, period. Custody,
I
suicide.
Yeah,
Garrett,
no,
let me finish.
Custody,
suicide.
A male politician running with a plank in his platform of outlawing circumcision.
Yeah, or any plank in their platform related to issues that affect men. Running on it, not just running on it, but having it be something that he sells his campaign to the general public on. I want to see that. When that happens, feminists will have a point that government represents men, because it doesn't. No politician ever, much less a male one, would run on a plank, would expect that having a men's issues plank in their platform would endear them to the public. And if men's issues, men's rights can't endear people to the public, that is not just a scary proposition, but how the hell can you say that our political landscape serves men? It seems more like men are the servants of what society decides is important, which is women's benefit.
We have a question from chat.
I know I
right or not, but I want to take a real brief moment to answer this. Shakura says, isn't the problem with media outlets putting political spins on issues any way they want? I want to say that is part of the problem. That does exist, and it is part of the problem. It contributes to it. It's not the whole problem, but it is part of the problem.
Okay, go ahead, Brian, and then we're going to move on.
The only thing I was going to say is that it's interesting that we're talking about this, these complaints about how few women there are in political power, in Congress, in the Senate, the presidency, in the U.S. at least, or perhaps in Parliament and other parts of the world. But isn't the original theory or the idea behind a government body is that it is responsible, it is accountable for us, like it serves the people. We don't serve it. So as a result of that, of course, the people that are in charge are the people. I don't even want to say that they're in charge, but the people who are in political power are representatives of the electorate, of the people who voted them in to power. They are actually, at least as an idea, they serve us. So they are. That's how it's supposed to be. But what I find interesting is that feminists look at people in power, in political power, as people who are more powerful than us, that have more influence, that can control, and control policy. But the reason why they are put in those positions is because we are supposed to be holding them accountable. I know that it might seem like a semantic thing, but I'm seeing a subtle difference in how I view politicians, and I think this might even be going into like a little bit of a political discussion, but the way I see it is that people who govern our society, they do so according to our whims. We elect them into office, and we put them in positions that we hold them accountable for what they are supposed to do, which means they have to be responsible. Feminists see them as people who simply have power that we've just granted to them, but as if they are not responsible or not accountable. And I find that interesting because essentially it shows that to them they just see people in power, but to people like me, I see people who they have to be accountable for that. They have to be responsible for what they're doing because they're going up there representing what we want. So it's not as simple as they just have power. It's not like the CEOs, who, by the way, also didn't just get a silver spoon in their mouth. They had to work their ass off to get there. This is something that feminists typically... Yeah, and they also have to be accountable, right? Yeah. So, I mean, that's just something else that I'm seeing. Like, if you guys in the chat, I can't see the chat because I'm on a tablet, but if you get what I'm saying, I notice a lack of attributing responsibility to people in power, because to them, they see people in power as simply men that just have power, as opposed to men that have dedicated their lives to, for what good, bad, or in between, to trying to essentially get all of the knowledge and skills to help run a country or run a government. And that comes with that is a lot of responsibility. It's not just power for power's sake.
They seem to think that power comes without any cost, right? And that power is entirely without cost, and it is just a free, and like, honestly, this is why I cringe at the idea of Hillary Clinton ending up, in the presidency, because she seems to also think that power comes without cost and without accountability, given her, thousands of deleted emails and the numerous times she's overstepped her bounds and really not being taken to task for it to the degree that she should have, as Secretary of State. Essentially, she thinks that that having power means doing whatever the fuck you want, right? And this is what feminists think power is: doing whatever the fuck you want.
They don't see that power actually comes with an incredible amount of responsibility. And when you're in power, more powerful you're seen, the less people consider how things impact you. So if you make a single mistake, bam, you're out. It's like nobody's going to give a shit about your emotional experience of whatever.
Yeah. No, Hillary was wrestling with her freaking bathtub faucet today, and now she's off her game. Yeah, too fucking bad. Psst, out. Right?
The other problem with women like Hillary is they seem to see power as an entitlement, not something that is earned. Because in general, when they talk about power, they're talking about levels of authority and a level of being respected as in an advisory capacity and in an authoritative capacity. Those are things that you should earn. I mean, you just don't hand that out to people because they're female or because they're from a specific family or because they have money or for any other reason that is just a superficial reason like that. Leadership isn't something that just everybody has. Not everybody has the qualities it takes to be effective in a leadership position. Not everybody has the qualities it takes to be not just accountable but benevolent in a leadership position.
Speaking of that and Hillary, I was just wondering if any of you all had read about the revelations of her domestic violence against Bill.
Recent revelations, or you mean the talk that's been there all along?
No, well, there has been a sort of a tell-all book published that detailed numerous accounts with corroboration from Secret Service agents and other people. In fact, in one case, she scratched his neck so badly, and he had a female sort of senior assistant who told the press that before she saw it, right, that he'd cut himself shaving, and then she saw it and she was like, holy shit, I can't believe I told them that he cut himself shaving, because there's no way he cut himself shaving.
Yeah, that was briefly discussed in one of the group's chats, actually, one of the Honey Badger group's chats, and I didn't get to actually read the revelations, but this isn't something that surprises me, just from the history of little revelations that have come out in the past. It's not news that people close to the Clintons are saying that Hillary was physically abusive to Bill. That's
and
actually
emotionally and psychologically, and she was apparently she was also like highly abusive to the agents that were on detail to protect her.
Well, to everybody around her. That was the prevailing, I guess the prevailing noises people have been making about Hillary for the last since Bill ran for president the first time. Her abusive behavior was under discussion. I remember not news stories, but editorials. I guess you would call them the equivalent of real media blogs before there were blogs. And it was even discussed, if I remember right, I think Rush Limbaugh actually even discussed the fact that she was known in the Democratic Party and just the political community in general. She was known for that kind of behavior. So it's not shocking to hear about it now, not because the behavior isn't something that should be horribly or heavily criticized. It's horrible behavior. It's just not new information. It's just confirmation of previous information, and it's still, it's still word of mouth. I mean, unless somebody can come out and give a recording of it or anything. But it's the same kind of confirmation that is accepted by feminists when it's a man under discussion.
Oh, I think it's better evidence than that. Essentially, you have it's not just. In fact, I don't know that Bill has come out and made an accusation of anything. It's all the people around him. It's all the people around her.
That's unfortunately common with male victims of domestic violence, though.
Of course it is.
Wow.
Of course it is.
You guys have just made
when you look at the kind of evidence a feminist would accept, it would be Hillary said Bill hit her. Okay, end of story. Done. Right?
Yeah.
There wouldn't be any need for corroborating witnesses. There wouldn't be any need for people in the Secret Service, people, assistant. Senior assistants and people really, really close to the couple to actually corroborate any of that. It would just be, her word would be just fine.
Right? Yeah, you're right. This is actually multiple times more credible than, say, having 50 women come out and accuse Bill Cosby of rape. This is actually witness statements.
And they don't stand to gain anything, really.
No, in fact, they stand to lose quite a bit.
Yeah.
That's the other thing. This is not heavily covered, but there is a body of mysterious deaths surrounding the Clintons that, like, these are all there's explanations given for all of them that are questionable. And I mean, this is something that you can look up online. There's a great deal of discussion about it. There's that. There's also a lot of retaliatory firing. There's a lot of retaliatory media roasting. Not to mention the fact that the media itself, if she's a media darling, there's media roasting. So for these people to come forward and talk about this, they're not just not acting in their own self-interest because it's not self-serving. They're not acting in their own self-interest because they're actually taking a risk. In fact, if you go back to the Monica Lewinsky controversy, the only reason that Monica Lewinsky and Linda Tripp encountered each other was because they were both shuffled off to the Pentagon to get them out of the way. This level of manipulation in that administration is common. And it's frequent, and it's actually that pattern of behavior that makes these allegations credible.
Okay.
Because these are so, but back to the topic. This situation. If we were talking about a reverse of the situation, if we had a president that was accused, say, of treating his wife this way, and or if there had been a woman president and her husband had been accused of treating her this way, and or a vice president, the campaign would end today. That a book like that coming out would completely destroy a man's ability to run for public office. I predict Hillary's campaign will continue.
All right. That's okay. We want to move a little bit more closer to the topic, so I'm going to talk about another mail that we received about, and again, I pose it to the panelists. Can you see why men might want to sort of get a little bit apathetic about participating in the dating sphere and the mating sphere? Thomas has made an inquiry. Hi all, I'm a fairly new listener and have really been enjoying your point of view on social issues. I just heard about an app called Bumble. If you haven't heard of it, it's an app similar to Tinder. However, when two people match, the man is not allowed to send a message until a woman does. The creators claim this will take pressure off of men and encourage women to make the first move. I like the idea at face value. It can be a little nerve-wracking sending that first message. However, whenever I read about it, the creators all seem to think shutting up men is better for the relationship process. Apparently, if we talk first, we can threaten and scare women that aren't interested in us, as well as get violent if we're rejected. Isn't this an example of a stereotype? This women speak first standard feels more like speak when spoken to directed towards men. I really want to expand on this, but I'm short on time. What do you guys think? Is this a good idea, or is this just another example of feminism overcompensating? Thanks, Thomas. All right, Max, you take the first.
Well, hold on. Did he say that the app is about making sure that women message men first?
Essentially, what happens is, I believe the map matches two people, or a bunch. It essentially shows you how you match along all of the different like vectors that they use or whatever, and then allows you to message them. But in this case, only the woman can message the men who are matched to her.
See, I don't know. I guess that's a fair way of looking at it. When it comes to dating sites, I find that if they were to bring in something like this, it might. The whole point of it might be just to provide some sort of a balance, because if you look online, like, for example, I believe that Xerxes, BassFZZ, is in the chat right now. He did a couple of videos about his experience on OkCupid, and he did a profile for himself and then did a fake profile as a woman, and he found that as a man he only received like 2 or 3 messages over the course of a week, but as a woman he received like 162 messages. So I don't know, maybe you could view it as something that's supposed to be encouraging to women, but I don't know, do any of you like encouraging women to message guys more often and just sort of provide a balance of it? But do any of you see it like the right?
I actually think okay, I'm gonna lay out a lot of my ideas on this. Oh wait, sorry, Hannah, go ahead.
Well, just from the writer's perspective on this, it sounds like they have done something that isn't necessarily bad, but maybe for the wrong reasons. If the writers, the person who wrote to us, if he's accurate in his description of why they're doing it, then yeah, it's not for the right reasons. But it's actually not a bad thing to set it up that way. If they were doing it for the right reasons, one of which would be to force women to into a position of understanding what it's like to be the person who has to initiate and take that risk, put themselves out there, and potentially experience rejection, because it might make women who ordinarily don't have empathy for men who go through that into a position where they might learn something. But and it also would protect men from being accused of harassment for approaching women on a dating site where they shouldn't have to worry about that. But if they're doing it because they think men need to shut up and let women take charge, then no, it's a stupid idea. Neither side needs to shut up and let the other take charge. It's not a relationship if you do that. In a relationship, it's mutual. You're supposed to be working at it together. It takes two. And the idea that it's one side's responsibility to make the relationship work and not the other side of the relationship's responsibility, it's one of the reasons why relationships today are not as functional as they used to be. And this goes back in a way to arranged marriages. When you throw two people together who didn't choose to be together, and it becomes their responsibility to make that partnership work. Both sides have to put effort into it. Both sides have to want to make that partnership work. And both sides have to learn to compromise, or their lives are going to be a living hell. And not that arranged marriage is a good thing. I don't think it is. But it's bad that we have lost that that imperative, the imperative that existed in arranged marriages, where both people had to learn to live with each other. That we think that just because we choose to be together, that we don't still have to learn to live with each other, and that we don't still have to learn to compromise on things and develop a closeness with each other and understand each other in order to have that relationship. That we can just, throw two people together because they want to be together and it's going to work. So things like this, the approach is potentially functional, but not if they're doing it with bad intentions. Or dysfunctional intentions.
I have some thoughts. I'm going to lay them out. First of all, if they well, Hannah has covered the bad intentions with the whole, oh, men are dangerous, blah blah blah, but I actually wonder if they're doing something really sneaky and potentially rather intelligent considering what their business they're in, because there are studies that show, or at least one study shows, and how this particular study that I'm referring to was set up is it was a study on those really quick dates. You know, you sit down with someone, you have like, I don't know, 30 seconds or a minute to sell yourself. Then you get up, you go to the next. They did a study on that, and what they did was they had it so that it was the men. The first group was the men had to get up and go to the next woman, give their spiel, then get up and go to the next woman, give a spiel to that woman. And then the second group, they had the women have to get up and approach the men and give their spiel. And what they found was, although women's choosiness didn't change, men's did. Men became more choosy when they were approached. Get that? Men actually became more choosy when they were approached by women. So, and also, what I'm thinking also happens is when women have to get out there and actually do the approaching, they invest more in who they've chosen to approach. So if they're the ones who have to make the message and face the rejection, they're going to invest more in that man, which means potentially they're not going to flake to the same degree as they would on other services, because they're getting so many messages in, which would tend to encourage flaking, because a woman thinks, oh my God, I have like 100 potential suitors, instead of, oh, well, I don't have any potential suitors because no man is allowed to message me. All I have is 3 potential prospects, all 3 of which I've had to message. If one of them messages me back, I'm going to be far more encouraged to actually take this to the next level, which, incidentally, would make the service more useful to people, because it might actually result in a relationship or a date. And they may have identified that women are the bottleneck and the problem in this issue. And you're going to have to force the women to do a little goddamn work to make them invest.
I actually think you're right about that. I really do. I think that maybe some of their reasoning is wrong with the, you got to make the men shut up and let the women take charge. No. You don't need to make the women take charge. You need to make the women take some responsibility.
Yeah, and in the process of taking responsibility, they're going to invest more in this whole. And I actually like the idea, because if you're a woman on this app, you're not going to get this 300 messages showing you how unbelievably desirable you are. You're going to go every day to an inbox, and you're going to look at that inbox, and you're going to be like thinking, oh my God, am I being rejected by the men that I've sent messages? Are they going to send me a message? And when one comes through, you're going to be like, oh yeah, score! As opposed to, oh, this is just one of another fucking 100. I mean, it's a complete, setting this up this way actually might be very clever for them to do. And again, I want to reiterate this. When men are approached by women, they get fucking choosy too.
Well, when anybody feels like they have options, they get choosy. And this is one of the things about abusive relationships, right? And all of the men that I have known who have been in relationships where their significant other talked down to them, belittled them, all of those things, and they were essentially, and then, and I did everything I could to make them happy, and then they left, right? And I was like, well, of course they did, because the whole reason they were belittling you is, like, why do bullies bully people, right? It's to say, I'm better than you, right? Your wife was saying, I'm better than you, and by supplicating to her and trying to appease her in her bullying, right? You were telling her, yeah, you're better than me. And if I feel like I'm out of the league of the person that I'm with, why wouldn't I go look for somebody who's in my league? Right? Why wouldn't I look for somebody better if the person that I'm with is so beneath me?
Exactly. All right, let's move on to the next letter.
Oh, I think
Cassius
Brian might have had something quick to say.
Brian.
He tried to, but he can't get into the chat.
Thanks, Karen. All I was going to say is that we're, when you mentioned that taking responsibility versus having all those, all that power of choice, I was just saying we're back on that understanding that, having more agency or more ability.
The Spider-Man thing.
Yeah, with great power there must also come great responsibility. But this is a thing that is, missing, because when you're never held accountable, but you're given all of the options, and you're going to be, it would happen to men too if we did the same thing for them. They would just become, foolish and selfish and narcissistic and childish and self-centered. Or choosy, as Allison put it.
Yeah, well, men deserve to be choosy too. Like, they should be very choosy in this particular climate, because you're not just getting a woman, you're getting a woman with a bazooka. It's like, yeah, you want to make sure the manicured finger on that trigger is attached to someone who's not completely bonkers. All right, let's move to the next one. Cassius has made an inquiry. Hey, it's Cassius again here. A friend just shared a Facebook post in Spanish saying, "Teach your son to respect women. Teach your daughter to kick the nuts of any imbecile who raises her voice to her." It's sad, but I don't know where to share it and feel understood and not hated and considered a misogynist right away. So there you go. Thank you for being there, Badgers.
So wait. Saying the way to respect women is to listen to them, and the way to respect men is to kick them in the nuts. Saying that's not okay. That would be misogynist.
Yes.
All right. Okay, good to know.
Oh, fuck. And everybody's like, oh, why are men turning away from society? This is why, you fucking idiots. I'd love to just get a job pointing out the obvious. Could you imagine if this amount of stupidity was evidenced in any other aspect?
Yeah, no, if I had a nickel for every fucking obvious thing that I had to point out, if I had 25 cents for every time I had to point it out twice and then explain it, why it's obvious, right? I would be rich.
Well, I heard that Hotels.com is looking for a new Captain Obvious. Maybe you guys might want to try out for that.
I think we got a lot of experience, but seriously, could you imagine it? Like, don't shoot the pigeons if you want them to eat your fucking birdseed. Don't kill them. Don't scream. I don't know.
But I don't want the pigeons to eat my birdseed. I want them to get the fuck off my property so they don't shit on my car.
Don't spread down birdseed.
I'm gonna shoot them. I'm gonna shoot those fuckers.
Yeah, but here's the thing. If you're one of these people who's like, why are men turning away from society, herp derp?
Okay, herp derp.
You would be spreading fucking seed down and saying, why are these pigeons eating this seed that I'm spreading? Well, because they're fucking pigeons and you're spreading seed down on their fucking lawn, you idiot.
Okay, here's the thing. Herp derp, right? Herp derp. We had a problem with magpies. We actually have a problem with magpies. They are the most fucking annoying birds. Right at 4:30 in the morning on a summer morning, they will be like sitting on a tree branch outside my window going, rant, 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 rant. Okay, that's what they do. A whole gaggle of them. A whole fucking rant, 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 rant. Imagine like 17 fucking birds all going rant, 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 rant at the same time. Okay?
It feels familiar.
Tirelessly. Absolutely tirelessly. Okay? So my boyfriend, he bought a slingshot, right? And he figured, I'm going to take some, little almonds from the little jar in the kitchen and take some almonds. And I'm going to shoot those fucking magpies. Okay? He managed to get 2 magpies. And then when he comes out the front door, they all fly away. They all fly. Not when I do. When he does, they all fly away. Right? When I go out the front door and I pull out the slingshot, right, and I've never shot, they all fly away, right? They learned. These are magpies. These are fucking magpies. They're not human beings. They're magpies, and they're capable of learning after 3 times being shot with an almond or seeing one of their compatriots shot with an almond, they're like, yeah, no, fuck this shit. We're still going to sit in your tree. We're still going to wake you up at 4:30 in the morning. But when we see you coming out the front door, we're all going to fucking leave.
Yeah,
Herp
but
derp.
this is a herp derp society. You keep metaphorically shooting men with almonds, eventually they're going to give you the finger and say, I'm not sticking around. All right. Next letter. Oh, wait, sorry. Cherry, please take the floor.
Something you guys said earlier, don't quite remember what it was. We moved on to birdseed somehow from there, but I would just like to find whoever it was, what was it, in the 80s, 90s, I'm not sure exactly, who championed this whole idea that men don't have feelings or that men are different than women. That whole thing should have been nipped in the bud because we're seeing so many things come out as a result of that. Women know what it's like to feel, like we all as girls know what it's like to feel nervous, to have a fear of rejection, to not want to reach out to somebody because we've actually been indoctrinated as women to not chase after boys. They're supposed to come after you. That's like a thing. At least it used to be. And girls are notoriously bad at initiating any kind of conduct. As a bisexual, I've been through the horrible gauntlet. I understand men on like trying to pick up women. It is fucking awful. So having this lack of empathy, the profound lack of empathy that men go through all the exact same things whenever trying to reach out to a woman for a date is mind-blowing. And we just see evidence of things like that. This thing that happened that caused women to feel that men are somehow different in the sense that they don't have all the exact same nervous, like worried self-esteem emotions that women do. And I think that's where the disconnect is in a lot of these apps and a variety of other things. There's just a profound lack of empathy. And I think that's something we need to point out, and that maybe some of these people, some of these women will realize what their problem is essentially is just a deep lack of empathy.
Well, I think the main issue, because men and women are different in their emotions, right? They're not different in the sense that they have different emotions. They're different in how they express them. They're different in whether they express them.
Exactly.
They're different in how safe they feel expressing them. They're different in how well they can master them, right? And men, even that whole thing, boys don't cry. That's not just a socialization. That's also a biological thing that occurs during puberty for boys, right? Where their tear ducts and their tear glands change to make them less able physically to cry, right? It's very, very much rooted in even if you have boys who have been my oldest, I never got after him for crying ever, ever, ever. Anytime he started crying, and he was a crier. He was like, Beauty and the Beast at the end when she kisses the beast and she says, I love you, and he turns into a prince, and he's like 3 years old and he's like starting to cry and get all verklempt, right? And then he's off, he's like heading off to his bedroom, and I'm like, no, it's okay, I'm crying too. And he looks at me and he's like, oh, holy shit, she's crying too, right? But he wanted to go off and be by himself for that. Right? And that was never anything that I ever taught him. He just felt like crying, being vulnerable was something that was probably best done in a room by himself, right? So essentially, I think that we have this idea because men conceal their emotions quite a bit or master them or overcome them, that they don't have them. And that they're essentially like a punching bag. You can just hit them over and over and over again. They never bruise. There's nothing inside there that can be damaged. You can just keep hitting and hitting and hitting and hitting and not caring at all. And it's just all totally fine because they don't show necessarily. They don't show what they're going through, right? And so that's really the thing. And I think that again goes to this disintegration and this undermining of male mentorship that used to exist. There used to be older men who could help young men deal with this stuff, and and stand shoulder to shoulder with them at a workbench, or in a fishing boat, or wherever, right? Not looking eye to eye, because that's not what men tend to do, but shoulder to shoulder, and just talk, and just be together, and I'm feeling sad, and the other one does the Hank Hill, yep, and that's all that really needs to be said. You're not alone. Somebody understands what you're going through, because he said, yep, he gets it, and there you go. Like, but we don't allow those things anymore, and boys, even where they're allowed, boys don't necessarily have the opportunity to have them, right? So you have this situation where everything, all emotions are measured on this metric of, what would WWWD, right? What would women do? And if men do something that women don't do, then they're not doing anything at all emotionally. If they don't express their emotions the way women do, they don't have any emotions.
Men aren't women, right?
Sorry?
Men, they're not womening right.
Yeah, no, they're really not.
Well, that actually sort of leads into the point I was going to make. Where we've been talking, and probably before I got on, you guys were doing it, about men, sort of walking away from the way society is today on the basis of why women would do it in men's position, rather than how men respond to things. And well, you talk about the fact that just because men don't respond to their internal emotions the same way that women do doesn't mean they don't have them. I need to point out, just because women make their emotions a reason for doing things, as opposed to, like, women act on their emotions sometimes more than on their logic. In fact, quite frequently more than on their logic. In the men going their own way spectrum, and I wouldn't necessarily, it's kind of loosely knit. It's sometimes too loosely knit to necessarily call it a community. But within the spectrum of men going their own way, there's a pretty big contingent that aren't doing it out of anger or resentment or hurt or fear or any other emotion, but because they have analyzed the current situation, analyzed the current system under which society operates, the mechanics of society, and realized that any participation in that system contributes to that system and actually worsens the problem. So it's not apathy or upset or anger or any emotional response that leads them to do this, but an analysis and a conclusion that their most beneficial way, or their most benevolent way that they can potentially contribute to modern society, is walking away from that, ceasing to contribute to it, and not becoming part of the problem. And it's not necessarily representative of the entire spectrum of men going their own way, but I've been listening to several men. I actually listened to one today articulate that specific thing. We've listened to several men talk about it from that perspective, and they're maybe not as loud in discussing going their own way as some of the other men who have talked about things that are wrong in society. But they are very present within the spectrum. They're very much a part of the men going their own way phenomenon, and it's important to keep that in mind, because it's a very different way of responding to things than when women think of things in terms of, how does this benefit me, how does this affect me, how does this affect my family, if they're in a family. They don't necessarily think of things, they're not conditioned to think of things, and they're not encouraged to or forced to think of things in terms of, what is my role in society, how am I contributing to society, what effect am I having on society. Men are more likely to take that approach than women are, and that it's important to not forget those men, because even though, yeah, they're justified in leaving for emotional reasons, that's not necessarily the case. They're actually doing something very functional. And a lot of men in a given area doing that can actually affect the system itself. It cannot run in without their contribution. It cannot. Men are what make things work in society. If men don't contribute to that system will end. So it's actually not a bad thing that that men go their own way for that reason.
You know, what if that's actually like a response, almost like an instinctual response, like, you know, in the wild, animal behavior might change when the environment changes. And it's not even like, it's almost like a part of our collective consciousness, like this, you know, it's almost like we're this reaction, because it's growing, and it's happening in places where, you know, MGTOW aren't even communicating with these other groups, but like there's just men doing it everywhere, and they're finding each other, but they were doing this little by little, and it's sort of like snowballing. I wonder if it's, I mean, I'm going into the, you know, maybe some scientific realm that I don't fully understand, but
I think
Talk about it. Actually, there's always been men who have been loners. You know, and there's always been a nickname, various nicknames for men who are loners. There's always been the mountain man, the hermit. You know, those guys have always been around. But this is different in that it is a wider spread response, and it's actually a response to the environment, and it might be very close to what you're talking about. But I would equate it more along the lines of, if you see an angry mob, and that angry mob is about to do something terrible, and you're aware that they're wrong, you don't have the power by yourself to just stop the mob, grab everybody and sit them down and make them stop. But you don't have to be a body with a pitchfork. And in a way, we've turned ourselves as a society into an angry mob against men and against ourselves. And there are a lot of men looking at that going, no, I'm not going to participate. I refuse. And walking away. Well, if you see one or two people walking away, it might not stop the mob. But if a large section of the mob breaks off and walks away, and some of them start saying, hey, you know, you guys are going overboard, this is wrong, you can't just do that, then it's going to increase the number of people that are walking away. And I think that's what's going on in this situation. And if enough people do that, it will stop the angry mob.
Okay. Thank you, Hannah. Let's move on to the next mail, and then we'll get on to the news items, because I am led to believe that there are many news items. Okay. CC writes, what do you get when a PhD takes two spuriously related data points, the fact that men gain an overall larger increase in happiness and longevity from marriage than women do, and two, the fact that women initiate divorce more than men, then takes these data points on a rambling roller coaster ride of speculation? From this morning's Facebook feed, quote unquote, is marriage worth it for women? Patriarchy, marital rape, oppression. Women obviously initiate divorce because they are enslaved and raped by marriage, not because they have nothing to lose from it. Men gaining some positive statistical points in areas where women are already miles ahead? Preposterous! They must be raping those points away from women. Why would a woman want to enter a marriage where her partner, like, gains stuff from it? All that health and happiness belongs to me, 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 me! Society needs to find a way to make marriage favor women even more disproportionately, because making men happy or healthy is misogyny. Go get 'em, girls. CC.
Wow.
Rachel.
You realize that this is the exact same shit that they were saying, though, in the 70s, were they not? Like, women's liberation movement or whatever, second wave feminism. They're like, oh my gosh, marriage is a prison, you guys. What's in it for us? We need to rebel against, we need to dismantle the traditional family structure and go out on our own, because it is oppressive, and it's a form of slavery. And children, they're basically just like an ankle weight that you're lagging around. It's holding you back. You need to cut them all loose, because that is the way to happiness. Now, so I mean, wait. So let me get this straight. A study came out that said that men benefited more from marriage.
I'm not even sure if it was a study. Like, I mean, there have been studies that showed this kind of thing. I think it's just happiness and health.
Yeah.
But they look into it, and they find that men who are married live longer and are happier than men who are not. Although I think that they should control for divorce.
This is true. This is definitely true. The situation here, though, is that the moment they see that it benefits men, the moment they see anything benefiting men, oh my gosh, this is oppressive to women. We need to get rid of it now. Is it even worth it? Is it even worth doing it if men are being the ones who are solely benefiting from it? We need to
we need to take that health and happiness and give it to the wife. End the health and happiness gap.
You know what it reminds me of? And this is one of the reasons why I don't blame some of the men choosing not to get married or be in relationships. It's because there is a certain kind of woman, and everyone knows this one, and she will be in a relationship with a guy, and she'll just look at a guy and be like, and he's relaxing after a long day, or he's got a day off from work, and he's got nothing else to do, and he's just chilling back. He's got his feet propped up. He's really comfortable. And then she looks over at him and says, look at him there. Just sitting there. He should be doing something. Hey, I have something I need us to do. Let's go do that thing right now. And he's like, we have to go do that thing right now. You should be doing something. Yeah, it's they can't just let a guy just relax and chill out, or go out with the guys or anything. It all has to be about them, and if it isn't beneficial to them, they get really upset. And I feel bad for the men who might be listening who are in that relationship with that woman right now.
Agreed.
Okay. Yeah, but before we continue, I'm just going to, and I apologize, Hannah, I just want to give a little more context by reading. The results revealed an intriguing pattern. As expected, women initiated roughly 2/3, 90 or 69% of the breakups in heterosexual marriages. However, the gender trend in relationship breakups held only for marriages and not for other non-marital unions. Moreover, women in marriages but not in other relationships reported lower levels of satisfaction. According to Rosenfield, this data suggests that the tendency for women to initiate breakups is not an inherent feature of male-female relationships. I think it's an inherent feature of relationships in which alimony is a thing.
Yeah.
Rather,
actually, you know what? What it indicates is men are mindful enough to end a relationship when they start to figure out that there are things wrong with the relationship, and it's not a two-way investment. They're mindful enough to end it before a marital commitment is made. Women are not.
Huh. Well, it could be saying that. It could just be saying that there's an experiment done where if you can exchange a painting for another painting, you get less satisfied with it over time. There may be something in relationships that doesn't breed contempt, like a relationship that doesn't involve a legal contract in which, in order for him to break it, he has to pay you. That might breed contempt in the heart of the female partner.
I think it's actually a long-term relationship. You have a much more even playing field. Like, essentially, if you look at hypergamy, and you look at the tendency of women to want a man who is, equal or higher on the economic scale and the social status scale and all of those things. And this is like typical across cultures, right? Now, the moment that you get married, now you're even. Now you're 100% even, because you own all of his economic and social status. That's yours now too. Right? So you're 100% even. It's not like it used to be where he still was the head of the household and you were below him. No, you're even now because you're equals. And then on top of that, oh my goodness, you know that in the divorce you're actually going to get, more than you came in with, right? So you're actually in a superior position now as a woman, right? That's probably what's driving it when people get married, and what's essentially when people are not married, it's much more even, or maybe men tend to break things off more often because they don't stand to lose as much, and also the woman is not necessarily going to have that sort of how do pickup artists and red pill traditionalists call it, unhappy. She's not unhappy, right? And the whole idea of unhappy is you're not measuring up, right?
I thought modern women were supposed to be independent. Wouldn't that mean that your independence is independent?
Well, the problem with that the problem with that is that you can't say, okay, we've had 50 years of women being able to be independent and earn as much as men, and say that that undoes 200,000 years of evolution and instinct.
No, that was actually a sort of like a poke.
Yeah,
because if you're an independent woman, don't you think you should be able to manage your own fucking emotions? Okay, Hannah, take it.
I want to actually touch on something else that was mentioned in the letter, and that's the mention of marital rape. That just sort of, it was a brief mention, but it's one of those things that really sets me off. Feminists talk about this like it's a trump card or a gotcha moment when they advocate, the belief that women are oppressed in society, and you knock down every other point they make. Well, it was marital rape was legal in the United States until 1973 because there were 2 states that had laws that basically made it more difficult to convict a man of rape if you were accusing him of it years after the fact in the course of a divorce in your marriage. The thing about it is, laws on the books that did that do not compare to the legal definitions of rape that excluded male victims of female perpetrators for forever. Like, when society first started talking about rape as a crime, they didn't talk about male victims of female perpetrators at all. At least not our modern society. And laws on the books have always focused on it as a male perpetrated crime against female victims. So where feminists talk about as if it is a nationwide thing, a couple of states that had laws on the books that made it more difficult for wives to accuse their husbands of rape years after the fact, husbands have never been able to accuse their wives, even the morning after the fact, and be taken seriously by authorities. And that was codified into law, and it still is to an extent. If she doesn't penetrate him, and authoritative responses are also affected by direct advocacy from feminists to treat the crime as a male perpetrated female experienced crime. So when we hear that from feminists, that marital rape laws are a sign that women are oppressed in society, I think it's very important to point out to them that if the capability of a spouse to use marriage as a defense against a rape charge is a sign that one gender is oppressed, the capability of an accused to use gender as a defense against a rape charge is a much bigger factor. And if women are oppressed by rape laws that allow for husbands to have one defense, then clearly men are more oppressed because there are laws that allow women who commit rape against them a much more effective and broad coverage defense.
Well, what I want to get at too with the marital rape thing is that both men and women had an entitlement to sex during marriage, and that's the entire reason why there were no laws specifically pertaining to rape within marriage, and that any sex that went on within a marriage was not considered, like, the default assumption within marriage was considered to be yes. That's and so you could still prosecute your husband for, if not rape, for battery if he forced you to have sex, if he held you down and forced you to have sex, if he beat you and forced you to have sex, you could have him prosecuted for illegal restraint and battery and all kinds of things, right? Even if the sex itself, even if the court said, oh, well, the sex, you guys were married. But no, he had to commit all of these other crimes against your person in order to get that. So, there you go. He's still going to jail. Oh my goodness.
All right, let's get to the first news item. I'm calling it now, and I'll say to everybody listening, if any of you are MGTOW men going their own way, we will revisit this issue. If you want to come on and talk to us, please send a message to topic@badgerpod.com. This is an invitation to all the MGTOW. If we get quite a few, we'll probably have to just take callers. And if the bigger YouTubers, MGTOW YouTubers, want to actually talk to a bunch of clams here in this clam bake, you can also send a message to topic@badgerpod.com or tweet us at @badgerbite. And yeah, we'll have you on. If you really want, we'll just make Brian and Mike talk to you, and Max.
Yeah, well, we can turn it into a pickle jar. Clams go well with pickles.
Well, no, I mean,
So
we'll just turn it into. We can accommodate a men's only preference as well, because we have penis.
Yeah. So you know what we should do? We should just get a room and just like shove like all sorts of different MGTOW together into the room and just let them sort it out. Just figure things out. And I'm sure that the people might come out all bruised and bloodied, but they'll sort it out. They'll sort it out.
Well, it's not. Well, I'm just offering the invitation. If you want it all via a show that is all men, we can do that too, because we have the men's, and they're willing. I think. Are you willing?
I is willing.
I just want to make sure I don't sign my soul over to Baphomet first. I want to see the contract.
Okay,
Well,
well,
I mean,
shit.
Baphomet not good, but Pazuzu I'm okay with. Pazuzu's okay.
Plus,
All right.
if we're going to be putting all our pickles into a jar, I want to make sure I know whose pickle is going in first, second, third,
Okay. Rachel, take us out of the silly place with a news item.
Well, we're gonna go out of the silly place and back into the fucking silly place, because this is what we're gonna need before we go into this topic, because holy shit. And there's a lot of funny things here. There's the ongoing joke now that everything is sexist and everything is racist and you have to point it all out. Well, guess what's sexist now? Hating pumpkin spice lattes. Oh yes. Have you had it up to here with like the women being as basic as humanly possible, with the women who are, or just the people in general who are totally obsessed with North Face and love paying something like $6 for a cup of coffee, and you're just frustrated with all of these things? Well, guess what? All of that's misogyny, because nobody, no men at all like pumpkin spice lattes. They simply don't like any of those things. They simply don't take comfort in the same things as these sort of I guess the term is basic bitches. All right. Yeah. So a dislike of pumpkin spice lattes.
As a basic bitch, I don't think eating pumpkin spice lattes is sexist, but I do think it's the sign of the devil. So
I've never had a pumpkin spice latte.
Pumpkin spice is the best spice in the universe.
I love
Expand your knowledge of space and
I
time.
love pumpkin pie. I love pumpkin
The
pie with
spice must
lots
flow.
of whipped cream, but I've never had a pumpkin spice latte.
Well, to explain to you the situation, there was an article. I think it was at a campus, an online campus newspaper, I believe, which was reported by another source, and it was a article I think called oh gosh, what was it? Evaluating masculinity, hidden sexism, and pumpkin spice lattes, and and in it she suggests that the reason why it's misogynistic to hate pumpkin spice lattes is because it's a harmful stereotype about women, and men never suffer from any kind of of harmful stereotypes around their interests at all, and therefore disliking these things.
Okay. So the whole Super Bowl domestic violence thing, that's it's not a harmful stereotype centered around an interest common to men. No, and the soccer hooliganism thing, that's not a harmful stereotype, centered around a men's interest. And I don't know, like horse racing and just gambling away the baby's fucking formula money and all of these, and men going down to the pub and drinking the rent money. That's not a harmful stereotype about men and the things that they like to do. And the whole rape thing, that's not a harmful stereotype about the things that men like to do. And fraternities who get girls drunk and take advantage of them. That's not a harmful stereotype about what men like to do. And and yeah, I can't think of any. I can't think of any harmful stereotypes about men. It's just I'm drawing a blank. Drawing a blank here.
But before we go any further, I just want to say I do like pumpkin spice lattes, but I gotta demystify this for you. It's pumpkin pie spice in coffee.
Yeah.
Let me repeat
Okay,
that.
but is there like any pumpkin in it, or is it just the spices that they put in pumpkin pie?
It's basically just the spices that you put in pumpkin pie dumped into
like
coffee.
Cloves and
yes,
like nutmeg and cinnamon. Yep. And
so it's like a coffee chai kind of deal if you think about it. So yeah, there you
are. Okay.
All right, I'm gonna defend.
And it's not as good as when you put it in tea.
Okay, I'm gonna.
It's not as good as when you put it in pumpkin pie. Thank you.
No. These things were meant to be chewed or put in tea. They're not really. I don't like it at all.
Okay, all right. Can I defend pumpkin spice? Okay. Actually, yes. Okay. If you look at the thing, the label of the pumpkin spice, you'd see what's on the label. It's cloves. It's nutmeg. It's cinnamon. It's ginger. I mean, Jesus, these are all spices that are they just exist, and they're fine, and they exist separately, and nobody has a problem with them. And yet when you combine them together, everyone loses their fucking shit.
Well, it's just
spice.
Just because something's good doesn't mean it's good in everything.
That's a lie.
Coffee is more compatible.
That's a damn lie.
With coffee is more compatible.
Can we all agree that pumpkin spice is good and delicious in pumpkin pie?
Yes. It's a flavor compatibility issue.
Okay, so then we're all okay. We're all on the same page.
Yeah.
But you know what's funny about this
in
issue?
Pumpkin pie. Okay,
you know what's funny about this?
End of conversation, people.
See, this is the thing. These groups that write this shit, their whole basis for criticism, the underlying basis for criticism is, if I like something, everybody else has to like it, or you're doing something bad to me.
Well, everybody is doing something bad to me. I'm saying pumpkin pie is the shit, and you guys are talking about lattes. Okay,
well,
let's just get off the subject of lattes. Let's all agree.
Given your skill,
we are unified in our love of pumpkin pie. Okay?
No. I think that you must prove it. Mainly just because I want pumpkin pie that Karen cooked because I know it'll be good. But
No,
I think
no. I don't ever do pumpkin pie. I don't bake.
Why?
I cook, but I don't bake.
I'm gonna whine now.
Yeah, no, you should, and everybody else should too. But I don't bake. I always hated baking.
I bake all the time.
I was good at it, but I always hated it.
Aw.
And but yeah, cooking I do. If it's meat,
Yeah.
I'll cook it. If it's
Max, did you want to go?
like flour and yeast, then forget it. Okay.
Max, did you have something to say?
Okay. Yeah. Max, go ahead.
I just wanted to say, if you want to be in my latte, you got to be pumpkin spice as well. Pumpkin spice, most underrated member of the Spice Girls. But no, if you want to be in my latte, you got to be pumpkin spice. All right.
Make it last forever, but this is really nice.
I think you guys managed to actually save us from a breakup, because I was thinking that maybe this whole pumpkin thing, this would be the end of the honey badgers. This would be like it'd be like our Yoko Ono, right?
Pumpkin spice?
We would all be like, fuck y'all bitches, and all walk our separate ways.
I love pumpkin spice.
Latte.
You know, I gotta just say this, because I've had myself muted for the last 2 minutes, just laughing hysterically to myself for this reason. I have a friend, one of my best friend in the world. She's a self-declared feminist, but she's not a crazy. I was at McDonald's with her yesterday, and she didn't want to eat anything, but there was this poster for a pumpkin spice latte on the window, and she was just staring at it. And I didn't know what she was staring at first, and I just asked her, "What the hell are you looking at?" She's like, "That poster on the window." And she's like, "Oh, why?" And she's like, "I want to get it." And I'm like, "Okay, so go get it." And she's like, "No, but I don't want to, because I don't." And I'm like, "Why?" And she's like, "Because I don't want you to judge me." I'm like, "Why would I judge you?" And then she said this: "It's because I don't want to be seen as a white girl bitch." It's like, what the hell are you talking about? Is that an actual thing? And she's like, "Yes." And I was like, why would I judge you over what kind of thing that you want to drink? And apparently this is a big deal now, according to...
But how is it that like a $6 pumpkin spice latte is a white girl bitch drink, but a $5 fucking latte is not a white girl bitch drink? Okay, because I come from the era of the $1 bottomless cup of coffee. $1, and you can drink 3 pots. You can drink so much coffee that they need to get out the defibrillator, right? That they keep in the back, right? And you don't even need to order anything to eat. You can just sit there and drink coffee after coffee after coffee after coffee. Read your paper, frickin' do your taxes, whatever, at the coffee shop. $1 bottomless cup of frickin' absolute crap coffee, right? That's the era I came from. This whole thing with, coffees that cost like $3, $4, $6, $7, right? That's like a completely alien world to me. I've never existed in a universe where I could afford to pay more than $2.50 for a cup of coffee.
Well, okay, so are we good? Can
So
we move on to the next?
is all of the latte and all of the cappuccino and all of the freaking espresso and all of that shit, isn't that all white girl bitch coffee?
Well, the whole thing is just a latte fuss over nothing.
Oh God.
Oh God damn it, Hannah. That was bad. You should feel bad, but we love you
Hannah,
anyway.
I just want to espresso my opinions, okay? I don't think that would be...
Oh, fact.
I think we've really ground this up.
This is way too fucking punny for me. Okay,
This
anyway,
is processed.
anyway, guys, next topic.
Okay,
Let's.
we're gonna percolate on the next topic.
Just don't press the issue.
Oh,
Shit. Hannah.
fucking
You've
hell.
been thinking about
We need
these
to start
rules,
filtering
haven't
this
you?
shit out.
Bastards.
Haven't you? Okay, anyway. The word flattering is the number one enemy of feminism. Well, oh God. Well, folks, I suppose we could just all go home now, because feminist Annie Walton Doyle has declared that the word flattering is feminism's greatest enemy. After claiming that men are never shamed for their appearance, The self-described makeup enthusiast proceeds to declare that the very concept of attractiveness is oppressive. So therefore, it's better to wear strange and outlandish things so that it will contrast against your less than ghastly features. Well, I think we figured out why these women are shaving off half their hair and dyeing their armpit hair. Just the thing where they just kind of shave off half the head thing. It's like,
Oh.
Yeah, wasn't Vin Diesel's dad bod trending on social media this morning when I woke up?
Wow, really?
Yeah, no, I'm totally serious. So yeah, guys don't ever get shamed for their physical.
Like, creep shaming is shaming guys for their appearance. It's, if you're ugly, don't approach anybody because you're a creep if you do.
Yeah, no, I'm sure the dude who starred in The Human Centipede 2 never got shamed for his appearance.
The term neckbeard is a way of shaming men for their appearance. In fact, it's a way of making shaming men for their appearance a thought-terminating cliche.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm just trying to get over the fact that Karen watched The Human Centipede 2.
In fact, my boyfriend made me do it.
She went back for seconds.
It wasn't my fault.
Men get shamed for being attractive.
I didn't watch the first one. He just wanted to watch the second one. He's like, we're going to watch this movie. And I was just like glued to the screen. My eyeballs were like glued to the screen in absolute horror.
Not only do
so
men
she went back for seconds.
Not only men get shamed for being unattractive, men get shamed for being attractive. Men get shamed for being healthier than other men. Men get shamed for being too pretty. Men get shamed for being too rugged. Men get shamed for being too tall, too short, too fat, too slim. They get shamed for being... for not trying to be attractive. They get shamed for wearing the wrong shirt. They get shamed for every fucking thing they do. They even get shamed for being nice.
Yeah, there's a dude at my boyfriend's work, right, named Adam, and we were all at the Christmas party, and we'd all been drinking a little bit, and there were like some girly drinks there, like some like wine coolers and shit, and like, I don't know, Zima, if that's still a thing, and and so everybody was asking, like, who are they? Because everybody's drinking just like rum and eggnog and like beer and stuff, right? And who's all the girl drinks for? And like, oh, that's for Adam. And so I was like, oh man, when Adam gets back, we should shame his we should try to undermine his masculinity, right? Because he's this guy. He wears very stylish shoes, and he wears very, very nicely fitting, tailored clothes. And he always looks spiffy, and he gets a hard time from it because the guys that he works with are, they're neckbeards. So you got a bunch of neckbeards and you got one spiffy guy.
Well, and my point though is, I mean,
it doesn't matter who you are, what you look like, how you present yourself as a man. You're gonna get like freaking criticized by somebody.
Right, but there is actually a thing among women of literally just bitching about guys' appearances, and it's not just a minor thing. It's to the
women of just literally bitching about guys. Period.
Yeah, there is, but there is an actual, like, if you read, I'm trying to remember the stuff I quit reading when I was in college, like Cosmo and the teenager magazines. That's like 17 magazine, and I don't know some of the other ones if they're still around. But the magazines that are supposed to be like how to be in a relationship and how to have good fashion choices and all that shit. Those magazines actually always had articles on how to manipulate your guy into dressing the way you want him to dress.
Yeah.
Under the idea that it was better. Guys get shamed for even just even making their own clothing choices, like to the point where it is considered an assault, not an assault, but an attack on the girlfriend or the wife if he refuses to conform to her clothing choice, to let her dress him like a doll.
Yeah.
And this is something like feminists will get pissed off that if women don't get treated like they're always perfect, like they're always attractive, and then they'll get pissed off at the use of the word flattery. And I'm assuming she thinks the use of the word flattery is a problem because it indicates that the compliment is not deserved, as if there could be compliments that are not deserved, right? Like you might feel like you need to compliment somebody so she doesn't get pissed off at you because she just asked you if her ass looks fat in these pants and you don't want to get hit.
Or that women need men's approval. That the very existence of flattery indicates a dynamic in which women need men's approval, and men are sitting in judgment of women's looks and have any right to comment on them.
Which is why people strive to develop the gift of Blarney. In fact, not only are women so dependent on men's approval, they have to think that it's not being given just for the sake of giving it. The gift of Blarney was explained to me by an old friend who differentiated it between, like, flattery is when you say, oh, no, you don't look old, you look so young, you're still so young and pretty. Whereas Blarney would be if you ask, at what age does a woman become so beautiful? And the whole point of it is that women are so conceited that they have to not only be flattered, but they have to have it presented to them in such a way as to not draw attention to the fact that men are doing it for self-preservation because it's a demand women make of them.
Yeah. Well, I just want to say also, you know, in terms of men not ever having to live up to women's standards, wasn't there a whole show about that? Girlfriends nominating their boyfriends for a show with like these 5 gay guys, and it was called Queer Eye for the Straight Guy.
Mm-hmm.
You know, where they gave him a makeover to please his woman. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, I think
men don't have to live up to any of these standards or anything, right? Yeah.
Well, what's interesting is that it's such a dependent relationship. If men, what's interesting is you're right. There's a dependency on men's flattery, or this perception that men's approval or something about men somehow creates the existence of women, which is ridiculous. It's absurd. But then at the same token, because it can negatively impact women, there's this presumption that men must give women exactly what they want, but not too much of it, because that might be creepy.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, but let's move on to the next news item because I want to go to bed eventually.
Okay, so next news topic. Brace yourselves for this one, guys. Babysitter Jade Hatt, I don't know how to pronounce it. Basically, babysitter gets off jail time after raping 11-year-old boy. You might ask yourself, how does this happen? Oh, this is your typical story, right? You've heard this one so many times before, but no, you haven't. No, you haven't, because this is far, far worse than you can imagine. Because not only did this woman get off on only 6 months and having to register as a sex offender for what she did, the reason why she got less time was because the boy's father, her former lover, oh yes, his father had been sleeping with the babysitter previously, and now she decided to, sort of come over to watch his son, and she lied and said, okay, yeah, no, he said he was 15. No, that's bullshit. The father explicitly stated that he was 11 on more than one occasion, so we know that that's not true. And the boy's father said in court that, oh, my son is not harmed at all. He wasn't harmed at all by this interaction, and he considered it sort of like a notch in his belt, and he's a sex crazy. But here's the description. This is as it was described the events. It said it was during the day, and the boy was off school. The defendant arrived at around 11:30 a.m. The boy was laying down. Jade Hatt sat on top of him, sat astride him, took off her clothes, and removed his. Sexual intercourse took place. According to him, it was fairly brief, about 45 seconds. She told him she enjoyed it. He said he had not, as it was wrong. And so not only did they ignore what he said in court, his father basically said, no, ignore this boy's feelings. He doesn't know what he's talking about. I heard him say this, and this, and I think that she should get off and everything like that. And never mind the fact that I used to be sleeping with this woman, and I want people to go easy on her instead of the boy, even though, you know. So basically, he's fine with his son being raped. Totally fine. What he's not fine with is the woman that he'd been sleeping with going to jail for a very long time for doing it.
All right, now, as this situation is absolutely disgusting. To say this to begin with, it's absolutely disgusting this happened. It's absolutely disgusting that the father reacted this way, and it's absolutely disgusting that this woman got off this easily. But all of the various excuses that the guy made for this really should have been irrelevant, even if everything the father said was true. We are talking about an 11-year-old child. We do not allow 11-year-old children to decide what they are going to have for dinner. You make the 11-year-old clean his plate, you know, or at least eat dinner before dessert. And if you can take, you can make a decision like that for your 11-year-old. If you can tell an 11-year-old, no, you can't watch this movie, it'll keep you up all night with nightmares. You could tell an 11-year-old, no, you cannot have that big of a piece of cake, you eat a smaller piece so you don't throw up. Then you can tell an 11-year-old, no, we're not going to have sex, you know, even if it's what you want. So even if everything that the father said was true, even if the kid had wanted it, it still would have been abuse to give it to him.
The only thing, I just want to, before we continue, the only thing I want to say that's a mitigating factor is that there is a potential here that he lied about his age.
If he was 15, I'd say the same thing.
Yeah, no, I understand, but, oh yeah, because it's underage. But, I mean...
It's the same. It's a different set of decisions. You know, with a 15-year-old, it's not cake. It's you can't go out with that girl. You know, it's you can't start dating yet. You're too young. You can't get your driver's license by yourself yet. You can't go to that. You know,
girlfriend.
This video game is okay, but that video game you're gonna have to wait a couple of years. You know, things like that. And it's the same thing. As an adult, it is your responsibility as an adult to know that a 15-year-old is not old enough to engage in a relationship like that with an adult. You just don't do it. It doesn't matter how you feel about it. It doesn't matter how the 15-year-old feels about it. You know better as an adult, period. End of story. And there is no, there's no excuse. There's no gray area there. That is simply the way it is. And it's not an 11-year or a 15-year-old that lied about being 21. It's an 11-year-old that lied about still being underage.
Mm.
And that's the last thing I'm going to really get to say because I got to go to work.
I was only going to say, I don't know if anybody else has their name in the chat before that. But what I was going to say also and add to this was that the court ultimately decided something that was even more ridiculous, which is that they decided that he was, of course, far more mature, like really, really mature. Of course, not mature enough to be able to have a key and just take care of himself at home and not needing a babysitter. But he was apparently so mature, and she's so immature that the age sort of matches up a little bit better, and so we can consider that consensual.
Okay, that's fucked up.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, but okay, my kid was a latchkey kid, right? At age 8. Age 8. He came home, let himself into the house, waited the 45 minutes for his siblings to get home who were old enough to look after him, right? He was a latchkey kid. He was old enough to be left alone in the house for hours at a time at age 10, right? Absolutely, old enough to cook himself a grilled cheese sandwich, old enough to use the toaster oven, the microwave, old enough to frickin' call 911 and exit the house if there was a fire, old enough to do all of that stuff, right, at age 10. Old enough to look after himself in the house by himself, make those decisions. Not old enough to have sex. Not old enough to understand the implications of that. I'm sorry, just not.
No, yeah, I know. What I'm saying is that if they're not even...
This kid was not old enough to be alone in a house, but he was old enough to have sex with an adult woman.
That makes no sense. None at all. That makes no sense whatsoever. That their logic is that, yeah, he's certainly not old enough to even do the basic stuff of taking care of himself, without his parents there. But they feel that he's totally mature enough to make decisions about sex. When a woman takes his clothes off and gets on top of him.
A woman who's in authority over him, too.
Yeah, who is 21 years old. 21 years old. I don't give a shit.
I don't care how old she is. If she was a 16-year-old babysitter, she's in authority over him.
Exactly.
She's in charge of him.
Exactly. But what I'm saying is that, like, how can anyone suggest that a 21-year-old is immature enough to even equate to that? How? I mean, I can understand to some degree. I've met some people that have made me fucking question, but even so, she's a fucking authority figure.
She would have Down syndrome in order to be at his level.
She's an authority figure over him, and there's no excuse for that whatsoever. It's completely ridiculous. They would not have let a man get away with this.
No, and if she was so immature that she was the mental equivalent of an 11-year-old, what's she doing babysitting a fucking 11-year-old?
Exactly. Why would you... Well, we know the answer to that. She was banging his dad. That's why.
She was banging everybody, apparently.
Yeah.
Fuck me.
Well,
like, who's even attracted to an 11-year-old fucking kid? Okay, I'm sorry. Like, I don't care whether you're a pedophile or not, okay? 11-year-old boys are gross.
Well,
I heard
11-year-old girls are not gross?
Well, no, 11-year-old girls are a little bit different because 11-year-old girls usually shower more than once every 2 weeks. 11-year-old boys, every single 11-year-old boy I have been in charge of, and I have been in charge of 4 thus far, have to be cattle prodded into the shower. They have to be reminded, twice a day to brush their teeth. I have actually had an 11-year-old boy in my charge tell me, it's summer holidays, I shouldn't have to do that. And I'm like, oh, it's summer holidays. Should you outsource wiping your own ass? Basic personal hygiene is just not something you're going to do on vacation?
I could Brian get in there.
Like, honestly.
No, I was just going to say, I read somewhere that the woman who did this, not that this doesn't excuse her at all, it's just an interesting factoid, she admitted that she has a lot of problems with a lot of neediness, and she falls in love easily. That was like one of her defenses.
Oh, that's that's all of their defenses. Every single fucking teacher that bangs some 13-year-old student, right, says, oh, I just got swept up in the emotion and I just fell in love and my husband wasn't like making me happy and so I felt like I just had to fuck this young kid.
My favorite excuse is he's really mature for his age, or she's really mature for her age. That's the one they drop all the time.
I was just curious though. If that let's pretend, let's take for a moment that what she's saying has truth to it. If that's the case, and she is emotionally needy to the point that she would essentially commit an act of pedophilia, because if the boy is 11, then he hasn't hit puberty yet. Yeah. And it's probably one of the reasons why he didn't enjoy the sex, even though boys at that age would get boners, but they don't know what
boys
that means. Like, I mean, unless somebody spoke to them about it.
Boys at age 1 get boners. Boys at age 1
you can get boners at any time. So, and you wouldn't know why. I mean, it doesn't make sense. You don't know what the point is.
Weird,
obviously, it's just weird, like body stuff. So, I guess what I'm wondering is that what if this woman that did this to this boy felt, if she's being legit and she felt that she was in love with him and then she made the confession that she falls in love easily, what does that say about her and not just her mental state, but maybe this idea that a woman could fall in love to the point where they would want to have sex with a child.
I want to know
then they would
I want to know
justify
what it
that.
says about her recidivism potential.
A lot.
Right? I mean, if she's just somebody who falls in love at the drop of a freaking baseball cap and backpack, right? And then she like feels this irresistible urge to like pounce on the 8-year-old boy or 11-year-old boy or 14-year-old boy who just got home from school, because she's just that emotionally needy and she just falls in love really easily, right? And so she's just gonna like freaking just rapity rape all the time.
Yeah.
Like she's not safe in the community if this is what.
Well,
If the judge believes this, the judge has to concede that she's not safe in the community.
Basically, she's been banned for. First, she's been ordered to also register as a sex offender for 7 years and banned from having any unsupervised contact with young boys. So it's. I don't know how well it's going to be at keeping her back, mind you, but.
Let's move on to the next.
When a woman has to register, I'm sorry. When a woman has to, I just have a quick question. When a woman has to register as a sex offender, we don't treat them the same generally, do we? As a man who has to register as a sex offender.
No.
So basically, she's not gonna because men who are registered sex offenders, even if it's just because you can get accused of pedophilia or a crime and not actually be guilty, and you could get the shit beat out of you or chased out of town,
you can take a leak in an alley. You can take a leak in a back alley and end up on the sex offender registry.
Okay, guys. We gotta move on.
Okay.
Next station.
Next story. What?
No, not one more thing. Next station.
And one more thing. Anyway, the Walthamstow riots. Oh God, this is very short and very quick. It's just kind of an interesting bit, because in the London borough of I'm murdering this. Walthamstow, a group of 200 young people. Well, it's a group 200 strong, aged 16 to 20, engaged in a large-scale brawl, and so. There were women, and they were college students, and I think from rival colleges, and they were fighting over a boy, realizing that they were dating the same guy, and it kind of just escalated in the streets, and the street was littered with hair extensions, earrings, nose rings, and push-up bras. I wish I was.
Wait a second, it escalated. Okay, so 2 women were fighting over 1 young man, and it escalated to a fight that involved 200 women.
Yes. Or 200 people in all, but basically what happened is they were. Well, here's the thing: it happened over a long period of time. So people would be fighting, and then more would show up, and then more would be getting involved. There are videos of this, and they're women beating the shit out of each other, and just kind of ending up halfway in the nearby store, going at it, and people are like, Jesus. And then they've got makeshift.
Happen?
They've got makeshift weapons. I have no idea, but that was what was left behind. That's what the street was littered with when you found there was earrings and stuff having been pulled out and shit, and hair weave and all sorts of. It was a mess.
I'm just wondering how people lost their push-up bras. I mean,
Where was
I have no idea. This was in London.
Oh yeah, no, okay, that makes total sense now.
Yeah, and that's where they banned guns, isn't it? Or they have more involved gun laws.
Oh, they don't have. I mean, even their cops up until not too long ago didn't have guns. They're beat cops.
Yeah, so instead they just use knives and stuff instead, other things. So basically, it was kind of like the beginning scene from Gangs of New York, but but on the goddamn.
Except with women ripping each other's hair extensions out and hitting each other with their push-up bras. And
well, apparently they beat the shit out of each other. It got a little bit more intense than that.
Yeah, basically they're beating the crap out of each other over this, and they had summoned other women on social media to get the gang together.
Oh my fucking god!
That's how I got.
Oh, we gotta totally do this, Rachel. We have to do this. We gotta like summon the Anita and Zoe band, or like we'll have a throwdown, man. Except we'll do it through dance, like West Side Story.
No, we can't do it through dance because I'm a Gorky dancer.
Why not?
Okay,
Well,
we have to do it through
what about a karaoke battle?
Rachel.
What about a karaoke battle?
No singing. What did I just say? No singing, Rachel.
No, we can't sing, we can't dance. It's gonna have to just be beating the crap out of each other.
Well, you know what? It should be like Anchorman, like that scene from Anchorman. It's like.
Yes. Okay. Yes.
I don't know.
I'm down for
that. But
I'm down for samurai swords and nunchucks with Zoe Sarkeesian and the gang.
The anti-GG just showing up, and they've got like fucking bats, and they're doing the thing where they hit their hand for a second, like what?
Yeah. No,
somebody's got a chain.
I just don't. How does something like that get so like I can understand like a whole fuck ton of soccer fans, right? Who really like different teams, right? And they're all in the same stadium, and they're all pouring out of the stadium at the same time. So they're all already there, right? They're all already there, and they're pushing and they're shoving and they're jostling and all of that. And it's like, half of them are high on the victory, and the other half of them are really pissed off, right? I can understand a brawl breaking out in a situation like that. But to have two women just start randomly fighting and then use, and then what do? They like pause between the hair pulling to text their friends to come over. Like
probably their friends were watching and
fifth and 17th, right? And bring some freaking chains or.
At one point they were like, one person had like I think they had like a bit of wood, like a bit, like it looked like it was like a piece of a fence post or something, and was whacking somebody else with it, and then just like ducking behind a pillar, and just, okay, you know what, next story. No,
this is like the reenactment of the 100 Years' War with Valley Girls. That's like,
we're doing
fantastic.
A reenactment? Okay, can I be the guy? Okay, and Allison and Karen fight.
Okay.
No.
Rachel, you could come in
He's
later.
my man. Oh my God! You need to tell. Actually, wait, hold on. It's supposed to be with a British accent. You have been sleeping with my man. I can't do it. I can't fucking do it. I can't fucking do it. I can't do it.
Mike can do it, but
we probably do it, but we don't have a mic. We don't have a mic, and so we don't have a British accent.
Like, well, I could do the uptalk accent. Oh my God.
Me too. Like, oh my gosh, you've been sleeping with my man. Like, what are you doing?
Oh my God, I'm gonna get
sleeping with him.
Oh my God, I fucking hate you. Ah!
Is he like this? Like, there's a question mark at the end of every sentence?
That and beat your face in.
Fuck, this is a hair extension? I thought I was ripping your hair out.
Okay, all right. Okay,
Wait,
let's go.
Can I just say?
Okay.
Can I just say one last quick thing? I just want everybody out there just to figure out who this guy was that they were fighting over. Send me pictures of him, and then let me send them to Milo, because he's either got to be A, really good looking, or 2, have a really big dick.
And probably at this point he's sick of women.
And Milo is apparently a notorious power bottom, so he'd be interested in that second bit.
What, he told you
Wow.
that? Good to know.
Yeah.
I don't know who. I don't remember who told me that. I just remember somebody. I just heard it through the grapevine.
So anyway, feminists protest the movie Suffragette. You honestly can't make things like this up, because even when Hollywood goes out of its way to pander to feminist women, there's just no pleasing them. Over 100 women from an activist group called Sisters Uncut stormed the UK premiere of the movie drama. They leaped over the barricades. They set off green and purple smoke bombs and claimed that there still weren't enough domestic violence services for women in Britain, and that the fight for women's liberation still isn't over. It's like, oh, okay, let's just jump over the fucking barricade here and just be like, the women don't have enough services. They simply don't. Like, look at all of these shelters. We don't have enough.
Oh God.
Women aren't liberated enough. Here, look at this green and purple smoke. There's nothing ironic about this.
Green and purple smoke. I don't know if they knew that that's ironic though. So we can just chuckle to ourselves.
This is like the new version of the Black Lives Matter protesters storming Bernie Sanders' talks.
Yes, it is.
This doesn't make any sense. You don't. Okay.
It's you know, you're on my side, and so now I'm gonna like scream in your face and make demands.
Yeah, and so well, I think we should get the last one out of the way, and then because this is just ridiculous. There's nothing else really to be said about that. They're just stupid. Anyway,
yeah, if you're gonna storm anything, don't storm a movie that stars Carey Mulligan. What you're supposed to do is sit down and watch that woman do her magic, okay? Because she's just great. Anyways, sorry, what were you saying?
Even if she's starring in a propaganda piece that doesn't tell even remotely the whole story.
Yes.
I'm sure she did a good job in her role.
I think we should just all see this movie, if only because it's going to trigger some feminists. I was going to avoid it before, but now I'm totally down. Anyway, so men who don't want sex. In an article that epitomizes female entitlement, the narrator talks about how she's frustrated with the fact that men don't always want sex. So basically, we've got the scenario, we've got the situation where you have people who are unevenly matched when it comes to libido, and when a woman doesn't want to have sex, and that's, you know, a guy just needs to deal with it. That's just something that he needs to deal with. But when a woman wants it,
but he can't masturbate because that's cheating, and he can't use porn because that's cheating.
Exactly. And but when a man doesn't want to have sex, and he's busy and he's got stuff to do, you know, all the demands of being the man in the relationship. Well, what he needs to do is, let me see what basically she said was, the guy just needs to give in a little more, and I'm sure that once you start off, you're gonna enjoy it. It's totally gonna be fine. Just lay back and go.
Okay. Now I can understand the sentiment if it went both ways, because there is a fairly well-known sex therapist named Bettina Arndt in Australia, who recommends this. She says that although you know, every individual has the right to say no, right? People in long-term relationships should consider the effect of constant rejection on their partners and consider saying yes more often, right? She was accused of being a rape apologist because this would mean that women would maybe have sex when they weren't 100% in the mood. But here's the thing. Here's the thing with this is that there are times when a woman is not in the mood right at the beginning, when sex is initiated, when the man is starting to make overtures, right? And by the time they're done with it, she's like, yeah, no, I'm really glad we did this, right? And I'm sure that that's probably the same for men, right? That the wife, you know, that the wife starts making overtures and the man feels like, oh, you know, yeah, okay, you know, I'm not that tired. And then at the end of it, he's like, you know, I'm really glad we did this. I'm sure that those things happen, that when you're tired or you're busy or you have other things on your mind or whatever, and you're not initially into it, that you can be persuaded to get into it and to really enjoy it and really be happy you did that, right? The whole thing is persuasion and not just expecting it. Not just expecting going to be the case. And the persuasion seems to be what it even played out in that Denise A. Hines study, right, where physical force was in heterosexual relationships was more common female to male verbal coercion. So verbal pressure, like verbal, trying to talk her into it. That was more common among, male to female. That was more common than female to male. But physical force, actually like forcing your partner to fucking have sex with you, that was actually more common female to male.
Yeah, well, and here's the situation. I honestly think that what's happening here is a lot of people are not paying attention to just how sexually compatible they are with one another. I think that some partners like sex more than others. Some need it more frequently than others. And instead of paying attention to that sort of thing, what's happened is, they just kind of ended up in this situation and realized, okay, well, I'm just not into it as much as you are, and then somebody ends up unhappy.
Well, I think too, there's this idea that sex is only sex, right? It's only sex. It's the O. It's the O at the end, right? That's not what sex is. I mean, a lot of the time when I have sex with my current partner, I'm not really doing a whole lot other than just lying there, like, because I mean, like, this is a man who could have sex constantly, right? And I just don't have time for that, and I don't have the energy for that, and like, I'm 45 fucking years old, like, I don't need to be crippled right now, like, I don't need to have to go for a hip replacement, is what I'm getting at. So essentially, a lot of what we do is centered around me lying with him, cuddling with him, and we just, all you need to do to be intimate with your partner is like talk some dirt in their ear and and caress them while they get themselves off. That's perfectly fine. It's a perfect, and it's not like to act as if every time a couple has sex, they both have to be 100% into it. They both have to reach the pinnacle of orgasm, maybe multiples, right? They both have to be like, totally satiated and like and speaking French and smoking cigarettes afterwards, right? No, that's not the way intimacy works. That's maybe the way sex in hookup culture works, but the way intimacy works between partners is that sometimes you might just, like, how hard is it to give somebody a hand job, whether you're a man or a woman, right? How hard is it to give them a hand job? Like, how is that? Yeah, okay, you're not into like having sex, hand job, fucking hand job.
Are we ready?
I don't have a problem at all.
Hand jobs. Hand jobs
Hand
for everyone.
jobs for all.
Seriously, I don't understand this thing that we have. This like fucking, it's this huge, massive complex that we have, that when a couple has sex, they both have to like, and it has to be like this romantic thing like in the movies. It's like gotta be like that scene in the Terminator where like they do like 3 different positions and they're like both orgasming at the same time. Yeah, no. Sometimes that's just not the way real life works out. Sometimes, it just doesn't work out that way. Sometimes
you don't end up being chased by a cybernetic organism from the future that wants to destroy your line.
Sometimes just get through the day, you go for the hand job. It's
exactly
not a big deal.
Okay.
Or the blow job.
But the hand job.
Your relationship.
But the hand job and the blow job, they come from a place of love.
Yeah,
so
of course they do. That's the whole thing.
We have no problem with the hand job or the blow job.
Let's call it a heart job from now on.
We'll call it the heart job. You're just giving the penis a hug.
Okay, you all are just now gish galloping, so you don't have to end it, but it's ending.
Brian's only saying that because his right hand is named Leia.
Great. Coitus interruptus. Thank you very much, Allison.
All right, all the heart jobs are ceasing now. Okay. Because it's, you know what? We've had a good run.
And none of us got off. Thank you.
Oh, well, you could take care of yourself.
All right, thank you.
Was it good for you too, Allison?
Okay, thank you all for listening. Again, if you're MGTOW and you're interested in coming on another show, which we'll probably have to schedule, well, of course we're gonna have to schedule at another time. But anyway, it's topic@badgerpod.com. If you're a MGTOW YouTuber, feel free to come on. And again, if you prefer to be on a show without us clams, beavers, whatever you want to call us, we can arrange that.
Clams.
Yeah, we went over, didn't we?
We can do that. We can do that for you.
Talking to some clam.
I'm not even being sarcastic. I may sound like I'm sarcastic, but that's just the way I am. I always sound like I'm sarcastic. And if you enjoy the content, please do consider becoming a patron at www.patreon.com/honeybadgerradio. Every little bit helps. Every shekel helps to increase our ability to say these things and do more. As you can see, our content has increased, which is thanks to our subscribers, patrons. Anyway, once again, that's www.patreon.com/honeybadgerradio. There are some wonderful rewards. Spending time with us. Maybe not so good if you're a MGTOW, though. Like that probably is not what you want from us, is to spend more time with us. So, okay. I think I'm just going to end now. Good night.
Hard job.